Welcome to a new episode of The Brand Called You. I am Arani and I am with Ashutosh Garg, the founder of the Garden Pharmacy and Equation Coaching. We have been talking about the journey of a startup in the last few episodes, and we are going to continue our discussion today. And today's topic of discussion is how to build an organization with a strong ethical culture and building leaders with high integrity. Hello, sir.
Hi, Rani.
One of the things that I remember you saying time and again is when you walked into your office for the first time and your boss said that remember you should have very high integrity. So I would like to ask, why is it important to build a strong ethical culture, and what's the importance of holding up your integrity?
So, as someone commented, strong integrity is seeing your behavior when no one is watching. And when we grow up, all of us get the same set of messages from our parents, and I would say all of us without exception. And what are these? Number one, don't lie. Number two, don't steal. And number three, fear some superpower. Right? Some people believe in God, some don't. But there is always this thing, they fear some superpower or some super being. And as we go through life, we tend to start making these adjustments in the way we start operating. And what are these adjustments? We start to compromise our values. What are these values? It starts from something as simple as saying, I need to get a new driving license. I don't want to follow a process which could take me 30 days to get my license because I haven't planned for it. And therefore, I say, let me pay somebody and get it sorted out faster. Right? This is just an example. This is nothing to do with people who issue driving licenses or anything like that. We do that same thing if you want. In the old days, if you wanted a train ticket, we would do the same thing if you wanted a passport, and so on and so forth. If that is the culture we bring into our organization, can you imagine what we will do to our company if I, as the entrepreneur, start to take shortcuts, start to do things which are not ethical? As the company grows into 200 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, how will I be able to establish any norms, any standards of how the organization should be doing business? Right. Because if everyone starts to make shortcuts and everyone starts to indulge in unethical behavior, first, of course, there's bound to be a run in the law somewhere. Right. But more importantly, the entrepreneur will lose control of their organization.
So, are you saying that building a strong organization with strong ethics and integrity starts with the entrepreneur?
Absolutely. And, ethics, integrity is not necessarily related to money only. Money is the most visible.
Correct.
But if I am the promoter of a company and I say that I am going to come to work only at 11 a.m., but I expect everybody else in my company to be there at 8 o'clock, right, it won't happen. Right. So you're being dishonest with yourself, with your company and your staff. Right. I think there will be a different set of standards for me as the promoter and a completely different set of standards for the people who work for me.
So as I scale up, as there are more people in my organization, and there are going to be times I'm not going to know everybody in the organization. How do I ensure that everybody follows the values that I have set in as an entrepreneur?
So I think the first thing that has to be done when you are a small company is to be able to sit with your leadership team and say, this is what I stand for.
Right.
And it could be as simple as saying, I expect everyone to be here on time. Right. I expect nobody to do anything incorrect as far as money is concerned. I expect the customers to be respected, right? I expect all the suppliers, uh, you know, to be paid on time, or if I'm not able to pay on time, at least to communicate to them.
Right.
So it is these set of standards that you as the entrepreneur establish with your leadership team is is what will get translated down as your organization gets bigger and bigger.
Okay.
It should not be that someone down the line says, "Why are they asking me to do this? They don't follow it themselves." The moment that question comes in someone's mind, we have lost the battle of integrity and ethics.
Okay. Fantastically put. But when you start out, an entrepreneur is under tremendous pressure from every side to achieve targets, to achieve goals, revenue. Uh, so, and there is always an easier way out.
Sure.
So how not to fall into this honey trap and take the easier route, and so stick to your strong moral ground?
I think it is just determination of the entrepreneur. When I founded the first store of Guardian, which, as you know, became India's second largest chain, some people would say, "Oh, now you must be getting free medicines." And I said, "No, I don't. I pay for everything." So, "But why do you have to pay?" I said, "Because I am an individual. That is the company that I have founded, which is its own entity. How can I cheat my company?" Right? So, I think it is important to make sure that no matter how lucrative or exciting a shortcut may look, you follow what is to be done. Yes, sometimes the battles can be tough. Sometimes there could be issues in how do you address challenges that you have faced.
Right.
But at the end of the day, good sense will prevail, and you will get what you want.
Okay, that's great. But then, how do you strike a balance between being unrealistically idealistic and ethical? There are always going to be times where you might have to bend a little. So, how far must one bend?
So, as far as honesty is concerned, it has no shades of gray, right? Honesty is black and white. It is yes or no,
Right.
right? That's it. There's no maybe when it comes to honesty.
Right.
The moment one starts to look at a maybe or multiple shades of gray in honesty,
Right.
you have already started to transgress the line that you have drawn for yourself on strong ethics.
Correct.
Now, when I say strong ethics, I mean ways of doing business. I'm not saying that you become so dogmatic about certain processes. So when it comes to money, I think there is no question. You have to draw the line and say there is no black or white.
Correct.
But when it comes to other practices that you follow in the business, there could be another way of doing things. An entrepreneur will have one way to do it, but you have other people working in the company. They could have another way of doing things, and those are the practices that you will need to start also adapting to. And sometimes, and more often than not, you probably will get a better answer from your team to resolve ticklish solutions rather than being dogmatic and stick to my own way of doing business.
So we must talk to people, talk to my team. At
Correct.
least.
Correct.
Now, what must one do when you find somebody in the team following unethical practices?
Well, I'm very clear on that. If it is an unethical practice with regard to dipping your hand in the till, you should be sacked.
Okay.
If there is anything to do with sexual harassment, you should be put behind bars.
Okay.
Right? Because there's no compromising on these things.
Right.
If there are errors of judgment that are made, which are not in the first two categories that I've spoken about, then you could speak to the individual and reprimand the individual and say that you will never repeat something like this.
Okay. Okay. So whatever the situation be, we have to take strong actions
Correct.
against it. I think that will set the culture
Absolutely.
going forward as well.
Absolutely. And there is an interesting example of my favorite politician, which was Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, the founder of Singapore. And one of his prodigies, who was a good friend, Kishore Mehbubani, recently said that the reason for Singapore's success was an MPH model.
Okay.
All right. H was complete honesty. P was pragmatism, right? And M was meritocracy. So
Okay.
then he gave examples of honesty, and I took it in the other form because of the we are talking of integrity. That's why I spoke of H first. And he says in 1965, one of the senior ministers in Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's cabinet had gone off on a vacation. He came back, Mr. Lee called him and said to him that you went on a vacation with a businessman. He must have paid for you. And therefore, what that means is that your time is up. And he was jailed.
Oh. All right. So thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You podcast. Be sure to visit tbcy.in to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover fantastic bonus content. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Simply search for the Brand Called You. Thank you and see you next week.